Welcome friends. Now in this section we'll be talking about asynchronous attack and some concepts related to that. Now before I explain you what is the asynchronous attack, let's understand something called synchronous transmission, asynchronous transmission, and then I will come back to the details of this asynchronous attack. Now when we talk about the synchronous transmission, let's understand the difference in between synchronous and asynchronous transmission. Now, when I'm talking about the transmission, so when I'm talking about the transmission, okay, it is two types. One is synchronous and another is asynchronous. Now, understand what is synchronous. Think that you are a sender and you are sending one file to somebody who is a receiver. Think that you are sending an email, right, to your friend. Now, when the sending and receiving, okay, these two speed from these two end is same, or the transfer rate is same. Let's say you are using 8 Mbps and the receiving rate is also 8 Mbps. In this kind of scenario we call it, this is synchronous transmission. Now if it is required that in these types of transmission, sender along with the data whichever it is sent to the receiver, if data is not enough, then it will send the empty bit also. Now what is empty bit? You think that, empty data, to make sure that sending and receiving rate is same, like all are the 8 Mbps. That means whatever you are sending the data to the receiver in the rate of 8 Mbps, the receiver also accepting the data, receiving the data the same speed. There is no difference. This is called nothing but synchronous data. Synchronous, this word came from the word synchronization, right? And even if it is required to send blank data or the empty bit, it will send. Now it will happen continuously. There will be no gap, right? So continuously the data will be sent and received or accepted. Now this kind of scenario is very difficult in normal era or normal time. Let's take an example. You are sending through electronic media, through internet, and you are expecting that sender or sending and receiving rate will be same. It never happens. That is the reason this kind of synchronization or the synchronous transmission happens within the system. It means think that CPU and RAM. So CPU sending information to RAM and RAM accepting in the same rate, or RAM is sending some information to CPU. CPU is also accepting in the same rate. There is no difference in between the acceptance and receiving, right? So it happens within the internal system, and that is the reason when the system gets hanged, like you are working in laptop or computer, if system is hanged, it means that the synchronization is not happening properly, right? So this is nothing but called the synchronization, synchronous transmission. The same concept or the similar concept is applicable to the asynchronous. That means when sender sending some information to receiver and receivers sending rate and receivers accepting rate is not matching. That means what? It means, let's say it is sending the data in 12 Mbps speed, but it is receiving at this end it is 8 Mbps or more than whatever, less or more than that. So that means there is not a proper synchronization in between this two sending and receiving rate, right? And it is not continuously data which will be sent. It means whenever there is a data, sender thinks that sender will send the data, sender will send, and receiver will receive. Now this happens in normal world, right? Let's say that you are sending an email, writing and drafting an email, and you are sending that email to your friend. It happens in that way. So that means it is we used, okay, when there exists bandwidth limitation. So bandwidth is nothing but when we are using the internet, okay. So the speed which you are using in our laptop or computer or the system of internet, that is called bandwidth. So when there is a bandwidth differentiation, this kind of asynchronous transmission happens. Now here it means what? That means when sender is sending the data, the speed of this sending and speed of the way it is received are different. That means you can think that in between there is some gap, correct na? The receiving rate, okay, and sending rate, or sending rate minus receiving rate, whatever, plus or minus, there is some gap. Now using this gap, when intruder or some bad people trying to get into or budge into your system or the network and attacks that, that is nothing but the asynchronous attack. Now you think that let's take a good example related to asynchronous attack. Think that you are doing some online transaction, and let's say in amazon.in or amazon.com you are purchasing something. It's a hypothetical example, nothing to do with this Amazon, Flipkart and all. It's a hypothetical example, so don't sue me later on. So think that you are doing some online transaction and you are trying to buy one product from online portal. So what happens after selecting all these details and the product and all, when you want to buy that, definitely you will have to make the online transaction. Now what happens once you put all the online details, your bank details, OTP and everything, finally you need to press submit button, right? So once you press the submit button, and that information goes to the receiver's end. That means bank portal or bank authorization system. Then only bank authorizes that, and it gives an information to the online company that yes, transaction has happened. And now you can send the product, right? So in between that, as there is sending rate and the receiving rate is different, so in that particular small gap, if any intruder, okay, hacks your network, and let's say that you have done the transaction of 35,000 rupees, okay, and you have pressed the submit button, and here bank database has to validate that you are having 35,000 rupees in your bank, and that will get transferred to online portal, right? Online portal company. Now in between this small, let's say 2 seconds, 1 seconds of gap, if intruder gets into your system, not system, your network, and this 35,000 they make it, let's say 45,000, right? And that money gets validated, and that money goes to an unauthorized fund, unauthorized, correct, unauthorized account. Now this is called nothing but asynchronous attack, and this attack, it is very fast. It's a pinch of I will say the pinch of second it happens, very fast and very difficult to detect and stop this kind of transaction. It's very dangerous, and be very careful when you are doing online transaction, right? So asynchronous attacks is nothing but, okay, it the attacks from, uh, sometimes of time limit gap or time gapping. When this attack happens very fast, it is called the asynchronous attack.